welcome everybody today to our webinar. We have a special guest, Lisa Dembeck, and we're honored that she's with us to represent Sean's Dream, which you'll get to hear about. We are also with Team Up for Hope, Inc., which is an all-volunteer 501c3, a nonprofit organization that seeks to address the impact of mental illness, substance use, and suicide in our community by raising funds and awareness for local nonprofit organizations such as Sean's Dream, which you'll all get to hear about shortly, at the forefront of these crises. So we also have Wayne Patterson with us today. And Wayne, take it away.
Thank you very much, Amy. Wow. I'm going to introduce Lisa in a moment, and she's going to share some of her experiences, her strength, and her hope. And I have to say, you know, destiny. Things happen for a reason in all of our lives. And I met the speaker today at the Warwick Valley Middle School. They had a session. I think it was Mallory's Army. If any of you watching are familiar, Mallory was a middle schooler that took her life, and her mother created a non-for-profit, and she's labeled it Mallory's Army because she truly does have an army of folks that are supporting the family, supporting the efforts of suicide prevention and awareness, etc. And as I was sitting there listening to Mallory's mom chat, I walked around the auditorium that was packed, by the way, and there were tables of folks that were there. The Warwick Coalition was there, Team Up for Hope, which we are a part of, Amy and I, and we were there. And there was another table that I never saw before, and I saw two women behind the table, and it said Sean's Dream. And I said, ooh. So I walked over, introduced myself, and Lisa, our speaker for today, was there, and she shared what Sean's Dream was all about. And I think my next sentence, even after saying hello, was, we have to do a webinar. I was so touched by what she shared with me. And so I guess I was excited about her what she had been doing and what she was doing, and how she turned a traumatic event into a pursuit of awareness and prevention as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker for today, Lisa Dembeck, who has created Sean's Dream. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for being available to come. You know, I try to keep it real, you know, and I do want to say a couple of things. Prior to us getting on, we all had these horrible backgrounds, you know, and now we're able to blur, you know, with Zoom, you can blur your background. It looks kind of cool, right? You got to admit, it looks kind of awesome. And I'm going to be putting, you know, all Lisa's information out in the street right now. You know, prior to getting on, she got a flat tire, you know, and she still made it here in time to not only start, but she got on before me, which is a pretty poor, shameful thing on my part. And I'm impressed she was able to not only change her tire, but actually get here to the webinar on time. But we're not here to talk about the blurred backgrounds. We're not here to talk about flat tires. We're here to talk about Lisa's brother, Sean, and her experiences, strength, and hope with that effort, And maybe you could just share with us, Lisa, Sean.
Share with you. Um, sure. Yes, I can. So Sean was 30 years old, and I'll just get to the thick of it. In 2020, Sean suffered from mental illness and alcoholism and addiction. And in 2020, we were in the height of COVID, the height of whatever you want to call it. He was about just coming up on a year sober, and he relapsed. He lost his job. He lost his bike. His bicycle was his free time. It was, his happiness. Someone stole his bike. He couldn't work in the restaurant anymore. Everything kept piling up, piling up, piling up on top of isolation, which is not a good equation for anybody, regardless of your mental health status, to be honest with you, in my opinion. He relapsed. And on April 8th, 3 days before his 31st birthday, we got a horrible phone call. We got the phone call that you fear like no other. And I have two brothers, Michael, myself, and Sean. We're all very, very close. We grew up like this amazing super sibling team. Losing him was like losing an appendage. It really was. We didn't know what to do with it. He was a wonderful human being. He loved fishing. He loved being outside. He loved nature. He absolutely, we used to call him Dr. Doolittle. Since he's younger, just gets along with animals like you wouldn't believe. I'm telling you, he can talk to these animals. He was amazing. He was a beautiful, beautiful soul. And that is how I remember him. I don't remember him, the addict. I don't remember him the person who struggled with mental health. That was not what defined him. He was my brother. He was absolutely beautiful. And that's what we honor today.
Yeah. And he's family is family.
Yeah.
Right. And what I'm hearing too is, regardless of what you are as you're alive, when you're no longer with your family member, you just have the memories.
Yep.
And the memories, at least I've had a lot of, death and dying in my family over the years. And I just, I have the memories, and the memories put a smile on my face.
They sure do.
You
gotta hold on.
Yes. So my next question is, Sean, you find out that he has taken his life, and you grieve like any sister would grieve. What motivated you to create a non-for-profit? And because most people don't,
What motivated me? I get asked that question, and I ask that question often, and I feel like almost every time I answer it, it's a little different. I just didn't want to suffer anymore. And to be perfectly honest with you, I was spiraling in grief. Every possible emotion you could think of. And I remember the moment that I thought of opening the nonprofit. I was actually in my basement. I was on the phone with my cousin. And I said, Jen, I have 4 kids. I have my husband. I have my house. I have to live. I said, I can't keep, I was crying. I couldn't focus on anything. It was horrible. And I finally just said to her, I have to do something. I have to feel productive. I have to feel like I'm doing something for him. I said, he passed away so young. How do we leave a legacy? I think that's what killed me the most. I said, he didn't get to like make his impression on the world, and she why we had this conversation, I don't know. I don't even know if she was trying to distract me, but she said, "Oh, I'm running a 5K." And she said, it's in honor of whatever it was at the moment, probably cancer. And I said, okay. And she said, why don't we do an event? Maybe that'll help. Why don't we do an event? So I said, okay, whatever, willingness, right? Whatever you think is going to work, because I wasn't doing anything that worked. Crying was not working. Being angry wasn't working. So we decided to throw an event, and that was called Reach Your Distance. And it focused on goal reaching. It was supposed to be one time, Wayne, just one time.
Right. Right.
And
What was it, a fundraiser or
oh, it was a fundraiser. So, and I can get into that at one point, but it was a fundraiser, and it was just to raise money for the dog rescue that helped me get Sean's emotional support dog to me after he passed away, because he was in South Carolina. So I said, let's just pay it forward. Maybe that'll help, right? So this event took off, and we can talk about that, but how this became a nonprofit was because the need was so great for what we did, inspiring and motivating and telling people to just keep going on whatever they were working on. The next year somebody wanted me to do it again, so I did it again. That was 2022. And then I finally just said, I was like, this has just got to be a thing. I'm like, I can't, either I'm all in or we're not. I said, because it takes a lot of time to do stuff like that. And so came the process of me debating whether or not we were going to be a nonprofit. I'm like, there's so much work. There's so much that goes into running a nonprofit. Will I have time? I went on meetings with people who were already doing it. I mean, I'm a researcher, I had to have all the info. And I finally just said, forget it. I said, we're just going to do it. I said, and we'll just see where it goes. So officially in 2022, we were classified as a nonprofit, and it's been full steam ahead. And it's just been a way to make my grief move in a forward direction instead of a downward spiral.
It's funny. I'm actively engaged with the community here, and where I live, and people come up to me all the time and thank me and I'm involved with a lot of organizations, and they thank me. They thank me for my effort, and it's hard to discontinue those efforts.
Yeah.
Once you see that you are touching people and they come up to you and say thank you, right? You feel like you would be letting them down. And so you had one foot in the water when you did the let me just see. You had one foot in when you did the Reach, your distance challenge, and the feedback from your peers, your friends, even people maybe you didn't even know, had you put the other foot in, right?
100%.
And that's commendable, because you have four little people.
Yep.
Right. And probably pets, and then a man, and or a significant other, and you have to spend time with them as well. And as you mentioned, heading up a non-for-profit and getting the word out for awareness and prevention and learning is time consuming. You did say something right after, like when I read your information, you said something about the love that you had for Sean had nowhere to go. It was, and that was like a definition of grieving that you had shared. Talk about that for a second, because that was pretty powerful.
It is. It's, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't even remember what I wrote on that paper. Now are 100% real, because I don't remember what I wrote, but it's true. So a very good friend of mine, her name is Danny, and again, when you're grieving, you reach out, at least I do. I need my people sometimes to just talk to and just pull me out of it. And she said to me, Lisa, she said, don't you know what grieving is? And I said, no. I said, I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm like, I don't know what this is. And she said, grieving is just love with nowhere to go. And I stopped and I was like, oh, even now I get teary, thinking about it. And I'm like, that's what it is. I'm like, that lump in my throat, that feeling in my heart where I feel like it's not even beating anymore. I'm like, it's just stuck. And that quote, it just defines it for me, that's how that defined that moment. It is love with nowhere to go. So I needed to take that feeling and release it, for lack of a better word, and move it forward and make it productive, and that's just where I'm at, but that quote could not have defined my feeling any better, and I still tell people that to this day, and
Yeah.
they have the same reaction. They're like, she didn't make it up, but she said it at the right time, and it really
Yeah. We at Team Up for Hope, we do these webinars and we promote them. So, and they'll see, the topic of they'll see that it's about Sean's dream, and there'll be a little summary of what the webinar is about. And people tune in, to see what is what it's like, because they have experienced the same thing, or they want to better understand the feelings that they're having, and
Yeah.
you touch them, through your real words of what you experienced. And there are many that do. And I'm gathering, when you did this, the reach the reach your distance effort, that there were just an abundance of people that were coming at you saying, wow, right? So now so you grieve, you find some energy to do that challenge. You have a significant number of people that are saying thank you,
Yeah.
For your efforts. And so now you create a non-for-profit. Now, what happens next?
That's a great question. That's exactly how I felt. What now? Reach Your Distance was powerful. It is powerful. It's coming up again in September. And that was the main focus in the beginning. And then I started searching for the direction we wanted this to go. You pick your board, you go through the process of who's going to be your supporters. And that was an easy pick for me. You know what I mean? I have my group of people who were all in, and I knew it. And I said, okay, let's think about this. We're a mental health nonprofit. I want to be able to support mental health and substance use recovery. I want to. So, and we can do that under the umbrella. So I started visiting recovery centers, and it turned into a very obvious need when I would walk into and take the tours of and talk to the executive directors of these facilities. And I would go into the donation rooms and I would look around and I'd say, for example, you have 125 beds, 125 filled beds in this facility. And you have a very, very empty donation room. How do I said some of these people come in with nothing. And I know this because that was my brother at one point, and sometimes he would have nothing, because sometimes when you ask for help, you just ask for help and go. You just go in the moment. There is no looking back. You just go, right? So I went to this one facility and I said, I'm gonna be right back. She said, okay. And about 4 days later, I didn't even know it was going to be a thing. I showed up with a car full of clothes that I had collected from people in the community. And I apologize, my phone's like acting funny. So I showed up with these clothes and she looked at me and she said, "How did you do this?" I said, "I asked for help. Just like all these people. I asked for help." I said, "We need clothes. We need men and women. It's co-ed. We need shoes." I went through it. Here it is, you know. And then that sparked the next project. That sparked the Let's Support Recovery clothing drive. And it was basically organic what happened next. It was just to fill a need. And then watching as we were able to collect so many clothes and so many shoes. We're now supporting about 10 facilities in Orange County, Hudson Valley, I really should say. And dropping off these clothes at these facilities weekly, Wayne, weekly is how much support we have from the community on this, which is beautiful. They know my car now, the residents who are there. I pull up and they're like so excited, you know, and they get to pick what they want. They get to pick what they want to wear. They don't just get handed something and say, "This is what you're wearing." You know, they can identify themselves on the outside as much as they are trying to figure themselves out on the inside. So we started talking and getting some feedback from the centers, and they were saying, "Listen, we're going to tell you, people are reading books together that you've donated. It's forming book clubs and fellowship, and people who, you know, need a friend and don't know how to make it now have something to talk about, and they're more comfortable because they're not, you know, in scrubs or whatever they get thrown at them." So we just kept going. And the program adherence is picking up for some people. And you know, you wouldn't think that clothing would be something that is so impactful for somebody, but it really is, you know.
You know, it's, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking that this was where my head was when I see and I've been through some rehab centers, and I've seen the number of people that are there, and I figured, okay, they prepared for the rehab center, so they packed a suitcase, they got all their toiletries together, like, you know, like they're going on vacation, right? And off they went. They said goodbye to the family, and off they went. And that's not the case, right? That's not the case. Sometimes they just have the clothes on their back, depending on their situation. And that's what I'm hearing from you. And they end up at a facility.
Yep. And, you know, a lot of them are too. You got to remember.
Many of them are what?
Many of them are, you know, all kinds of stories, all kinds of situations, you know.
You mentioned the donation room, so that's somewhere where the residents can go and pick and choose. Is that what a donation room is?
Yeah, so the donation room is, and now I'm learning the ins and outs of all of this. There's somebody who runs it. They do the intake. When we drop off clothes, we go through it, we clean it. You know, I make sure that each facility has different guidelines and regulations. No tank tops, no short shorts, no short skirts, no whatever it is. So I go based on those regulations, and then I drop them off, and then they get gone through again through security there. Each person can get, say, 7 outfits, right? Because you can't really, if somebody has 10 outfits and the other person has 15, it's going to cause a conflict. So everybody gets 7 outfits. If one of them gets ruined, you go to the donation room and you get a new outfit. You give them the one that got ripped and you get a new one. It's a way to keep regulation, you know, and commodity essentially without causing conflict. So there's a lot that goes into those donation rooms that people don't realize. It's not just a walk-in closet where you can come in and pick and choose what you want. But there's reasons for that. And it makes a lot of sense. there's, like I said, there's a whole process. So a lot of times I
Yeah.
have to go to certain donations, but there's a reason behind it.
I had, I had been to a number of centers, live-in centers, and never paid attention.
Yeah.
I saw the room with all the materials that they can grab to read and learn, 12-step and a variety of other material that's inspiring and motivating. And that helps, but never thought about clothing. Just thought that toiletries and all that stuff would just be made available to them. Yeah, so wow, thank you. Was all of this happening before you and I met, or during, or
no.
after?
It was happening honestly at the same time. Everything, when I met you, was really at the height of me figuring out exactly where we were going. The Mallory's Army happened randomly. I was asked to go there, I think by Warwick Valley Prevention, Francesca, at that time.
Yes.
I just said yes. You know what I mean? I'm kind of a yes person. I'm just like, sure, no problem. We'll be there. And then we met you, and I think it might have actually been exactly around when we decided what we were doing, putting it all together.
Yeah. You had a table full of information.
Yep.
And you had bands, and I still have the band, the rubber band, and it's, and I wore it so much that it faded. Now it's just a color. It's just a color. You'll be proud, right? It's just a color. You can't even read anymore. I don't have it on today because it's just a color. You can't see what it is. And you made an impression on me enough for us to be sitting down today having this webinar. And you had a friend with you that evening, if you remember. I don't remember her name, but I remember you just being the sister, and your name was Lisa. The Mallory's Army was pretty powerful, and you being there, just, everything happens for a reason.
No, I agree.
Right? And I'm happy that we met. I'm happy that Francesca invited you. And as you're engaged with this, it's really a new world of awareness and information and service and sharing your story. It just opens you to so much more, as all the different organizations that exist in the county. I know that you're a strong advocate for ADAC, and they're a wonderful. If you could share even what ADAC is with us, and why you think that that's so important.
So ADAC is Alcohol Drug Abuse Council. And I first met Mary Alice. I honestly don't even remember how I met her. People hear about Sean's Dream and just ask questions, and I just start talking. So
yes.
Her and I hit it off. We went to lunch. We talked about how we could collaborate. And I started going to some of their presentations, and I just really believe wholeheartedly that they are all in. They've been around forever. They focus on prevention, and they do a lot with the school district, which is where I started seeing them the most, because I have my kids are, all different ages in the school district. And, whereas they're kind of like I don't want to say the polar opposite, but they're like the yin and yang to me, to be honest with you, because they handle the prevention for the younger kids. And I'm kind of on the other end, where I'm dealing with the recovery centers with, some youth and some adults, and they're trying to fix the before, and I'm helping the after, and it's very collaborative. I fully believe in what they're doing, obviously. And I work with them a lot now. We're working together in the Goshen Community Coalition, and anything that they do, I'm just willing to help and to support, because I think that what they're doing is fantastic, and they've got it together,
Yeah. And they've been around They've been around a long time. I kind of call them the mothership of information for the county. It seems as though they get fed a lot of statistics from the various police, crisis centers, and they just have. And I've learned that through the Warwick
Yep.
Valley Prevention Coalition, and that's how I met the coalitions. You know, I've met a number of the coalitions in the area through that coalition, and I'm sure I don't know if Mary Alice wasn't there the night that you and I met,
No.
but they're always at that middle school,
Yeah.
doing something, and I've gone there a number of times for vaping seminars and marijuana seminars. You know, we do this thing, if you're familiar, the hidden mischief,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah, which is pretty wonderful. So I'm just sharing that information for those of you that are listening. Your school generally has this for your youth. And if it doesn't, ask about it. Ask them about hidden mischief. Ask them about ADAC, because they do have a presence at all the schools. And not only will you get the presence of the coalitions, and you'll get the presence of Sean Dream, and get to meet Lisa, and get to meet a lot of other wonderful people that are out there bringing awareness and resources and guidance to a world that we're having a lot of problems with addiction and mental illness and suicide, and the numbers are staggering, and especially after COVID. So now you grieve, you're learning, you create your 501c3, and now you're a non-for-profit. You've done the challenge. You have this clothing effort. Tell me what's going on and what's kind of in store for the future. Or you just, it kind of takes a life of its own, doesn't it? I guess I wanted to say.
It does. I have plans, but sometimes, I'm not, I have ideas, I have plans, I have things that I'm working on. We also have another random thing that happened. My husband suggested one night over dinner, I think you should have a podcast. And I'm like, I'll just add that to the list. Sure. So here we go. We have this podcast, right? Because we just say and do things. Now, my co-host is Earl Farmer. He's also on my board of directors. The podcast has turned into a beautiful way to spread awareness on success stories. Did not think it was going to go anywhere. We're well into our 20th episode at this point, and each episode is a story of whether it's a business or life or recovery. It doesn't have to be just recovery. I speak with people who run recovery centers for newborns in Ohio. There's only 4 in the United States. It's amazing. People who run, mental health farms, they do retreats. I've spoken to people who have re-entered society from being incarcerated and where they are now. I mean, stories that are uplifting, shocking, some of them, some of them are like, whoa. But every single one of them is worth listening to. And I can't say that we do an episode and the follow-up questions and the follow-up comments that we get, I know that we at least reach one person with the episode, and it's pretty amazing. I had no idea about podcasts when we started. And my co-host is, 3 years out of jail himself. And he was incarcerated for over 13 years. He had a life sentence. And, I won't get into his whole story, but he really changed his life around, and his story is phenomenal. And he inspires me every single day and has become one of my best friends. And it just goes to show the entire organization is made up of people who, we have all different kinds of stories. We come from all different kinds of places. And it's that lived experience that helps the person that we're talking to. Because if I can't relate to your story, I guarantee you that I know somebody who can, and we're going to show you you're not alone. you know.
And I love to hear this, because the reason we do these webinars is for the world to meet you,
And I,
and the world to learn about your organization, because there are so many people out there that can relate
yeah, yeah,
or need, and those that can relate because they're family members, to those that are considering harming themselves.
yeah,
And sometimes you just hope that, and that's why we call our organization Team Up for Hope. We always hope that someone listening, someone seeing our brochure, just makes a phone call or tunes into a webinar and is touched by something they see or hear that has them turn around, even for the day, even if it's for the moment,
minute by minute.
right? And I know we were talking about Mental Health Month, and we were trying to schedule a time to get together. And as I was trying to schedule that time, I said, it's Mental Health Month, and we might miss the month. But then I realized Mental Health Month is every month. Mental health is every week, every day, every second. It's never enough
100%.
to share. And I'm excited. I'm happy that you were able to make it. Tell me, I here's what I love about Facebook and I love about Instagram. You can follow what you want.
Yeah.
And when you follow and you friend someone, you get their information regularly. And you pop up, Sean's Dream pops up on my Instagram all day.
Well, I'm glad.
What's that?
I'm glad.
and Kyle, I know.
Yep.
And that's a whole nother topic of conversation, but I see him with the clothes and I didn't know the clothes bit, so now I better understand what's behind him having the car loads of clothes like every day, so it seems.
We drop off, I would say an average of maybe once a week. There are some weeks where we've done 3 or 4 drop-offs now. I was just making 2 drop-offs yesterday. We are partnering up with Oxford House. So I went to one of the Oxford houses here in the area yesterday and dropped off men's clothing. And, it's, I would say an average of, we'll say twice a week. And our drop-offs are not just a couple of bags of clothes. I mean, I try and make sure that when we go, because there's so many people who need it, that we're going with a whole car full of clothes. I'm not coming with one, we're coming with a whole car full of clothes. And, sometimes we have filled facilities and they're like, you gotta hang on a minute because we're going through what we have here. And I'm like, okay, it's almost selfish because I love it so much. It really is. And I don't know if it's the giving or if it's the community service or just all of it that I love. But my hope is that at some point we will have a facility. You asked about the future, and I don't know if I answered that properly, but my hope is that at some point we have a facility where somebody who needs clothes can come and just get them, no charge. You need them, come get them. If you work for a facility, you can call me. I'll put together what you need, what you asked for based on your rules and regulations. I'll pack it up, send somebody, come get it. Driving around and dropping off it's a lot of work. It's very hard when you're doing it with volunteers and you're not making any money doing it. You're not paying anybody to do it, so it's a lot. So my hope is that in the future we have a facility and we can just help a little easier out of that facility and keep clothes there and, do our community outreach and have like a central hub, for lack of a better word, because we're out in the community a lot now too. And, you know, as well as I do, carrying around all that stuff, 2, 3, 4 tables and all that. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It is. And you have to always be careful because you do it so frequently. Self-care. You don't want to hurt yourself in the process of grabbing something, twisting the wrong way. I guess I'm a little older, the body just doesn't run as fast and jump as high anymore. There was something I read also about you and your organization that was pretty impressive, is that you spend time with the employees of the facilities.
I do.
Yeah, talk about that. That is pretty powerful.
So, I mean, I'm a talker. I talk to everybody. It's just a thing. And you really get to know these people, right? The employees of these facilities are the forefront of what the person who's asking for help sees. Now, when somebody's going in, and I've sat and I've watched intake, I'll go and I'll sit in a recovery center and just watch the process, watch the hallways, watch the employees, watch and learn and see how it goes and just see where the needs are. I know that sounds crazy, but you really learn a lot from just seeing. One of the things that I really loved about the facilities that we support is the intake process. And the person at that front desk needs to have an amount of empathy that you can't even imagine, to make that person who feels so uncomfortable in the moment feel comfortable. For example, resource recovery in Orange County. I'm a big supporter. I'm a big fan. And this is where I learned about this. I watched a woman come in. She had one teeny tiny bag with her. She was not in good condition. She came in and there was no judgment. Not one. The first thing they said to her was, "Are you hungry? Let me get you something to eat." She sat down next to me. She had a hot meal. They said, "When you're done, come on up. We'll get you settled in." It wasn't, put your stuff over there, get checked in. There was no judgment. That woman was hungry. She probably just made a really hard decision. And the person at that front desk made her feel comfortable, loved, safe, and welcomed. Those employees have to set aside their life, whatever's happening in their life, and they have to put everything forward with compassion for that person. And they deserve a break sometimes. So Sean Stream is probably going to partner up, excuse me, with Artemis Hill Farms and start giving back to the employees, start offering retreats, start paying and sponsoring for those employees that just need a minute. You know what I mean? They just need a minute because they're going home with all those stories too.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. It weighs on their mental health. And to be honest with you, the need for mental health professionals right now is so great. Why? Because they're leaving, because their mental health is suffering. We got to stop it. We have to help them. We have to help the helpers. It's a need that's so great. I don't even know. I just see it, and I hear it. We need to help. We need to help the helpers. Better word.
Everyone that sits through a webinar with us as a guest speaker, we send out a form for them to fill out and answer certain questions about their area and how they're an advocate of those areas, if it's their own or if it's someone else's and they're helping or whatever. And yours touched me because you were like a newborn. That everything that you saw, you wanted to address from your own grief.
Yeah.
How do I handle this grief? And you got some assistance from a friend that said, let's just do a run. Let's do a charity thing to kind of get you out and get you in the mix, and from that, with the challenge and from the things that you've done, it's just led you down this path of not only creating Sean's dream, but looking with childlike eyes to what is happening all around the process of mental health and addiction and potential suicide. And you were just grabbing and asking the basic questions, and seeing a donation room that was empty, and seeing the employees and how, because the turnover for these KSAC counselors are big,
Oh,
and I'm a KSAC T. So I understand that, and I've heard that they're in and they're out because they deal with this day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out. It does wear on it'll just wear on any human being. And for you to see that and say, okay, let's kind of focus on you, the
well,
volunteer or the employee.
they're the
And
Wayne, they're the foundation. You cannot build a house on sand. You need a solid foundation. You know what I mean? And if we're losing them, what the heck? We're not losing people who need help. So the ratio, this is going to be scary. It's going to be scary. Even workers in yes, children protective services, adult protective services, they are tired. I know many people who work in that field. They are tired. Let's give them a break. Let's help them out,
And thank you for seeing that. That's what I'm really trying to say. And thank you for hitting this with youthful eyes and not getting just caught up in the process, but learning and experiencing these new experiences and trying to help. And like you've seen, the more you help, there'll be those that follow to help you help. Right. And I'm one of them. I'm behind you 100%. There was something you said also that caught my attention. You've learned to, how did you put it? Actively listen.
Yeah.
Share a little bit about that.
So well, wasn't something that I was very good at, and when I needed people to actively listen to me, I needed to talk, I needed to vent, I needed to, I don't know, I didn't even know what I needed. When I was grieving, I just needed people to talk to get the thoughts out. And I had an amazing group of people. And when I stepped back and I thought about how did I get from there to here, it was because of them. It was because of the people who sat down and just listened. Sometimes it's easier and better to just listen than it is to speak. You know what I mean? I don't need you to tell me that I'm going to be okay. I just need you to listen to me for a minute. And actively listening is something that I learned and looked into, that kind of, it really sparked my interest, because you can listen to somebody and look like you're listening, but you got to comprehend it. You got to really listen to what they're saying, and it's important. And sometimes, an addict or an alcoholic or somebody recovering from whatever, domestic violence or sexual assault, their mind is just going 100 miles an hour. And they look up and they see you and you're making eye contact and you're just look like you're fully engaged. That might stop that thought process. That might stop that pattern. And they might just feel for a second that you really care. Actively listening is showing that you really, really care. And it's not hard to do if you pay attention to what you're doing. And it's so important. And it's something that I had to learn, like, just stop talking, Lisa, just listen, just listen.
It's not easy. I know that I could have talked this entire hour, and I'm learning to be quiet and listen, because I was the guy that would you be speaking and I'd hear you.
Oh, yeah.
I got ears. I hear you. but I just wanted to wait for you to finish and hopefully you hurry up so I could respond. You know, I was really listening. I was hearing to respond, not necessarily listening to anything that you were saying. And that's something that I've learned to develop over time. So when I saw your active listening, I said, right on, you know, because that's something I'm working on as well. And thank you. Because once again, as I read your intake form here, I was smiling, I was nodding my head, and I was thinking about Kyle, and I was thinking about me being a KSAC, and I was thinking about the employees and your thoughts about them, the clothing and the toiletries and all that stuff was something that was new to me, that I wasn't aware that there was really a strong need for that. And you shed some light on that. There was something about socks that that you had mentioned too. I know I want to cover it all. I want to cover it all because it's all so wonderful, and it's important for the world to hear that if you find yourself in a position where you have to go to rehab, there are folks like you out there helping ease the pain.
Socks, right? So socks and t-shirts are the biggest. They're like gold. They're like gold, right? But if you just think about it, as silly as it sounds, how amazing is it to put on a new pair of socks? You know what I mean? It's amazing, but it's something that we take advantage of. Oh, I need socks. I just go buy a pair of socks and I put them on. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people cannot do that. And when you go into a recovery center or you're starting your life over, right? You have a way of thinking about, like, you have a limited amount of money. How much money are you going to put towards the basics? How much money are you going to put towards recovery? How much money are you going to put towards, housing, food, clothes? So we make it a little easier, right? So the socks started because the recovery centers kept calling and they're like, we're out of socks. I'm like, what do you mean you're out of socks? Like, where are they going? People are not coming in with them. They just have shoes. They do not. I don't know why. I'm not going to pretend to know why, but this is the phone calls that I get. So I said, okay. So we partner up with a company. After all this research, I find a company called Good 360. Good 360 is a way for nonprofits to purchase items that have been donated to them in bulk at a very discounted price, right? So I'm searching their inventory, and the deals come and they go. And there's a package of 600 socks. And I'm like, how do I get my hands on these, right? We don't have a lot of money. Sean Stream does not have a lot of money. So everything that I purchase comes from donations, right? I throw it out on Facebook and I'm like, listen, for like $60 or whatever it was, $74, I can get 600 pairs of socks. Somebody's got to donate this. All of a sudden, my phone blows up. Venmo comes in. I purchase these socks. I get this box of socks and I'm like, holy cow. I run to a recovery center. Actually, two. I divvied them up. And 300 here, 300 there. And it was like, the look on their face was amazing. And I'm like, okay. So this is the thing. I get a phone call from a couple of volunteers from the middle school just recently, last month. And they said, we need to do a fundraiser. We need volunteer hours. Can you help us out? I said, no problem. I was getting more phone calls. We have more facilities. They all need socks, right? I'm like, easy. Do a Socks for Souls drive. Okay. So I explained to them. The kids come, they help me sort out some of the clothes. I explain to them what we're doing, why we do what we do. They asked amazing questions about recovery. Which, full disclosure, I asked if I could answer them honestly with parents because, they're little kids. And they said, yes, please. So okay. So we had great conversation. They learned a lot. And in that process, they set up a couple of boxes, right? Not thinking that this silly sock drive was going to go anywhere. Well, they collected so many socks. They didn't know what to do. They had 3 huge boxes of socks. They loved it. And I said, you don't realize, I said, they had almost, I forget what the number was exactly. It was almost 500 or 600. And I said, think about how many people that is. I said, and each person is going to get at least one pair of socks, however the facility divvies it up. The look on their face, the fact that somebody didn't have a pair of socks was just mind blowing to them. They were just like, how does that even happen? What do you mean they don't have socks? Whereas I'm grateful that they don't know that.
Right.
I would be able to provide that, to open up their eyes to sometimes people don't have the basics, and this very easy task of just setting up this sock drive, you just helped 500 people. You put a box down, you asked for help, and you helped 500 people. So Socks for Souls is a program that we run all the time. You can go to an Amazon wish list that we have on the website and make it very easy. You just click and purchase. It comes to our PO box and it gets immediately brought to a facility. It's very easy to do. It's very inexpensive. I have socks on there that are, I think, $1. It doesn't have to be expensive to help somebody.
Right. I'm listening to you and I'm in awe, with all from Sean.
Yeah. I mean, Sean, these are the things. So like, I laugh with the socks because Sean loved getting new socks, which is, it makes me giggle a little bit because I can still hear him. We would send him care packages when he would get out and help him start over. And, that's kind of what we would do for him. We would send him money for clothes, or we would go and we would take him shopping. And, it was easy to help him with the basics because it helped him, build what I like to call right now the recovery capital. So he had more money to spend on, an Uber to get to his meetings. He had more money to spend because he didn't have a car. He had money to buy a bike to find that happiness and drive himself to the meeting he needed to go to get to work, to, bigger impactful things that he needed. Why? Because our family helped him with the basics. And you don't think about, clothes are expensive.
Yeah.
Clothes are expensive. They really are.
Toiletries.
Yeah, I mean,
way expensive.
Yes, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste, things that we take for granted. Not everybody can buy them.
Our time is going to be coming close to an end.
I could talk forever.
I could go on for hours. Just one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's Sean's life, Sean's dream, I meant to say. And then there's Lisa's life.
Yeah.
How do you manage?
Short answer, the do not disturb button on my phone. Sometimes I just need to realize that I'm getting wrapped up in all of it and I need to just take a minute, how do I manage? I don't know. I mean, my planner, my basic, you keep it all scheduled as best as you can. My family comes first, obviously. It just is what it is. This is what we do. It's just what we do. But taking time for myself is something that I do often, at least once or twice a week. I work out every morning. That's my 15, 20 minutes. I make sure that I have my time for myself a little bit every day. And I encourage other people to do the same because I didn't always do that. I was 110% all the time, eyes open to eyes shut. I was going. And this whole process, by talking to people who are in recovery and actively listening to other people's stories, impacted my life to teach me, to take care of myself and to take a break when I need it, I mean, and however that shows up. Sometimes it's just taking 5 minutes, Wayne.
Yes.
I
know that's important. Self-love and self-care are critical. And not self-love where you get arrogant and obnoxious and conceited. Just, self-love. You have to love you
Yep.
before you love, and someone, every time I talk about that, there's always somebody that says, yes, you're on the airplane, they drop down the oxygen, you got to put it on you first before you
Yep.
could help anyone else. I thank you for being here today. I'm sure, I'm getting texts as we're having this conversation and being told that, we could probably set up some clothing bins here,
Oh, good. Yeah.
and that'll be exciting. Give me an important website for the audience to see. I'm assuming it's Sean'sDream.org,
Well,
and I mean, and it should be. But your shirt, let me straighten out the shirt so we can see the name.
yeah.
And it's
Dream.
Sean's with an S. Yes.
SEA.
Dream.
Yep.
Sean's with an S, Dream, no
Yeah.
apostrophe.
Yep.
And .org.
Yep. Sean'sDream.org.
And you'll be seeing what Lisa has created. You'll see what's available, the resources that are available, and I hope that someone listening, whether it be a family member or someone that's on the edge, takes advantage and gets caught up and captured into your world, because it's
Yeah.
a wonderful world, Lisa, and Sean will be happy. I'm excited about, the effort that you've done for Sean, and in the meantime, you've helped those that are sick and suffering, and the employees of those that are sick and suffering, and the children in schools that are learning, service to those that may not be as fortunate as themselves. So you're touching a lot of lives, and you surely have touched mine.
Thank you.
So thank you. Before we go, I do want to throw out, pride is a big deal with the LGBT community, and it does have one of the largest suicide statistics in this country. And there's one coming up, and I'll talk to you more about that. There is the nation, what is it? The National Night Out. I'm sure you're familiar with
Yep.
that as well. And they seem to have those in every community, yes?
Yep.
So I'm sure you'll be plugging into that. There are firefighters and veterans and seniors and a world of people that would love to have you speak to them if you haven't already. And don't let me be your booking person, because it would not be a good thing, because I think you're wonderful and I would have you everywhere,
Thank you.
because it's an inspiring story. Do you have any questions, Amy? Anything you'd like to? I know that Lisa covered it all.
I would just like to say thank you, Lisa, for all that you do. You're a godsend to people who are here on this earth, and you should be really proud of yourself for all that you do. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate you guys having me on here.
Yeah, it's just another way to get the message out for Sean'sDream.org. Plug in, see what Lisa and her directors are doing throughout this Hudson Valley area, and lend a hand, or reach out for support.
Thank you.
And with that, Lisa, you and I will talk. I'll be in touch with you. Please tell Kyle I said hi.
I will.
Yes, I'm crazy about Kyle. And you be well, and we'll chat soon. Peace and love. Thank you very much for joining us and sharing with us today.
Thank you so much. Love you guys.
Yes. Love you too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, hi. My name is Wayne Patterson. I'm the president of Team Up for Hope. And this is Amy, the treasurer of Team Up for Hope. And Lisa Dembeck, your sharing on the webinar was so touching for all of us. And you yourself are an example of experience, strength, and hope. And Sean would be proud, right? So on that note, I want to present you with a check for your organization from Team Up for Hope for Sean's Dreams Incorporated.
I can't thank you enough. I really can't. Thank you.
You're
I
very,
appreciate the
very
support.
welcome.
I appreciate all of this. This
And
is going to help a lot of people.
And I thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
And keep on doing what you're doing.
I appreciate it.
Peace and love.
Love you.
Thank you.